This is my 1925 Sears Silvertone Neutrodyne radio. I had a video on it that I put out several months ago, and I pointed out that it had an open second audio transformer, meaning that I could get it to play from the first audio output, but the second audio output I couldn't get it to, you couldn't get much sound because the transformer is bad. Now what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to repair this radio by replacing the second audio transformer. But before I do that, one thing I wanted to point out, I could not figure out how to take the chassis out. And the reason I couldn't figure it out is normally these top pieces here are screwed in with or fastened in with a screw. You take it out and the chassis slides out the top. This one comes out slightly different. I couldn't figure it out until recently. I know how to do it now, and I'll point that out later in this video. Apparently the person who owned this radio before I didn't know how to take it apart either, and was going to attempt to take all the knobs off and pull all the chassis out from the faceplate, which would have been a disaster because he would have wrecked all the bus bars, all the connections would have broke. Fortunately he didn't do that, but how do I know he tried that? Because he put the dials on wrong. When the dial is fully meshed, like this one is fully meshed, the dial should be at 0 instead of 100. He put them on so that the dials are at 100. So that's easily fixed. All they got to do is position the dial. But more importantly, I had someone commented on my video that how did I know the second audio transformer was bad, especially without taking it apart, taking the chassis out. And I'm going to explain that, how I learned that the second audio transformer was bad. Within an hour after I received this radio, I bought it from an eBay seller. So I'm going to go through that and explain that. Okay, the first thing you have to know is how the tube pins are pinned out. The fat pins on a 201A are always the filament, and the thin pins, the left side of the locking pin, here's the locking pin, the left side is the plate and the right side is the grid. That's important to know. You have to know that the left side is the plate and the right side is the grid. And knowing that, then you could figure out how to measure the transformer windings without actually having to take it apart and check them right at the transformer. So in order to do that, these three dial TRF radios from the 20s are pretty much wired the same. This one's a little different because it has neutralizing capacitors on the first and second RF sections of it. But many of the 3-tube, 5-tube 3-dial radios didn't even have that. They were just wired up pretty much all the same wiring. This radio does not have a C battery. That's important to know. Many radios had a C battery, which was usually a minus 4.5 volts. This one does not use a C battery, and that's important to know. So it's also important to know which tube is which. Obviously, because of this being a Neutrodyne, this and this and this is the first RF, this is the second RF, this is the RF detector tube. This would be the first audio amplifier tube, and finally this would be the second audio amplifier tube. And it's the second audio amplifier transformer that's bad. I found that out within an hour of owning this radio. The transformers are wired underneath these boards. So how do you figure that out? Well, you have to measure, and like I say, The left side of the centering or the locking pin is plate, the right side is grid. So we'll go through this. So how are the transformers wired in? Well, basically how they work is, starting with the detector tube, the primary of the first audio transformer goes from the plate to plus 45 volts. That's the primary. The primary has the fewest windings and the lower DC resistance. The plate, however, goes from the grid of the first audio tube to the A minus, or in this case, in this radio it says minus 6 volts, but basically that's the A minus. So it goes from the grid to A minus. So let's measure and find out what they are. So first we'll connect my meter to 45 volts, and we'll go to the plate, and I hope you can see the meter. And there we have basically 1,000 ohms. It's 1.1, but it's 1,000 ohm. So the primary winding of the first audio transformer is good. Now we switch this over to A minus, and we go to the first audio tube. Now what we're going to do is we're going to check the grid. And here we got basically 4.8, we'll say 5,000 ohm. It's a 5-to-1 transformer. So the secondary winding of the first audio transformer is good. Okay, now we're going to check the secondary winding of the second audio transformer. So now that goes from plate of the first audio tube to ground, or to plus 90 volts. So we connect up our meter to plus 90 volts. We check the plate of the first audio tube, and so you can see the meter. I don't know if you can see it. We get nothing. So the primary winding of the second audio transformer is open. Now let's see if the secondary is open. We go back to the A minus. If I can get this on. Go back to the A minus, and so the secondary is going to be from the grid to A minus, and we go to the grid of the final, or the second audio tube, and there's our 5,000 ohms. So the second audio transformer has an open primary, and this is exactly how I knew that. I checked this within the first hour I owned this radio. I also checked the grid leak resistor, which surprisingly was good. They're usually 1 to 3 mega ohms, and the grid leak resistor in this radio was good. And you can see that because I had this playing in the first video. So now I'm going to take this radio apart, and I'm going to change out the bad transformer. So now this brings me to getting the chassis out of the cabinet so I can actually replace that transformer. And that is really very interesting, is these pieces of scalloped trim are just tacked in with little small nails. And there's a screw, and there's a screw. So essentially it comes out through the front. It doesn't slide up out of the case. And I don't know why I couldn't figure that out right off the bat. I don't know why. But I know that the previous owner, who was going to try to take the mechanism apart because he put these dials on wrong, he couldn't figure it out. So at least I'm not alone. Anyways, I'm going to pull the chassis out of the cabinet. And here it is out of the case. I numbered these trim pieces 1 through 4, starting with the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, so they can go back in exactly as they came out. This is a transformer that's bad. I'll bet that transformer's potted too. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But I already ordered a replacement for it. It's not going to be an exact replacement. The DC resistance will be higher, but to find an exact replacement for one of these is, I would say it's pretty close to impossible. Maybe it is impossible. You can find an inner stage audio transformer, but not one with the same DC ohms and windings. Okay, now here is the original with the open primary. Here's what I opted to replace it with. Now, this transformer is a far cry in value from what this was, but you're never going to find another transformer, at least not a new one, that's going to replace this directly. This one will work, but the quality of the circuit is not going to be as good as it was when this was originally working. So basically this will get the radio working on the second audio stage, but probably not anywhere near as good as it could be as if I had an exact replacement. Fixing this is not an option. I've tried to fix some of these before. You unwrap them and then you find out that the wires are broken in more places than just one, so I'm not going to attempt it. I'm going to throw this one in. I've used these before. I put a pair of them in my Oriole radio and also in a friend's Oriole radio, and they do work, but like I say, they are not the optimum replacement for this transformer. And if you can find one on the internet that is a closer match, good luck. I've searched the internet over and over, and the only place you can find, maybe you can find replacements for these, are new old stock or ones taken out of old radios on eBay, and you really take a chance in buying one of these from an eBay seller. So I'm going to use this transformer in spite of the fact it doesn't match up in quality to the original. And I have the transformer installed. Like I say, that transformer is not going to work anything like the original worked, but it will make the radio work. There's a lot of leeway in these old 1920s radios, but that transformer is pretty far off from what it should be, but it's the closest I could ever find. I don't think I could find anything closer. So I have it on the first audio output, and now I'm going to switch it over to the one I just put the transformer in. Now I know it's going to amplify, but it's not going to amplify very much.
Right, and then the second you get that mark on your resume, start a lot of games. That's exactly what I said, Tim, after that game. Is I said that he is...
So it's quite loud now. So in spite of the fact that transformer is by no means a replacement, it's pretty out of specs from what was needed, it's doing its job. So that transformer fixed the problem on the second audio stage.
Going from one play to another, and there were a lot of... On the Wing Show, on Rock 96.1 and 101.1.
So I'll make another video with the horn speaker on it later. Okay, I've got it set up for a final go. I've got it connected up to my Rolla Recreator horn, and I'm going to plug this into the second audio. Doesn't handle that very well. This would work better on a midwinter night. These radios are not very sensitive, and the tubes in this radio are used, so the emissions are probably not very good. So the extra application actually overdrives the horn.
On the street to have more of these special details or special units, you want that means more police officers. And back to back.
Yeah, we've had that discussion over the last couple of months. That, there was a missed opportunity with the grant. There was some expectation that we should apply for the grant, $50 million that would supply additional officers. There was a pushback that's saying we couldn't train those officers anyway. I didn't buy that then, and I still don't buy it. I think we have to do everything we can to maximize the number of men and women serving in those positions. I know they're busy, because I talk to a lot of these folks away from the show. I run into them all the time, and they're busy.
Those are really good jacks.
Listen, can you realize, if we have additional people on the streets to do some of these things,
So the second audio amplifies very good,
it's not perfect.
very well.
You mentioned the homicide's a personal crime, right? You can't control everyone's behavior, but certainly the public safety to do a little bit extra on some of this.
There's a lot of noise in the air because we're having rain.
After 11% off. Through October 29th, savings are available and some exclusions apply. See store. Did you know your home needs a fire pit safety check every year? Your 56-cinnamon chimney heating and cooling has been taking care of Chicago and its finest homes, like yours. Schedule that safety check.
Sometimes just a slight adjustment makes a difference.
I'll never forget the first time I saw somebody get results at our clinic. He was an 80 audio. This is news.
You
don't do that when you're your game. I mean, it makes sense. You see the people from the hip hop station, all of a sudden it's like,
oh yeah, first year.
if he's around the, his gay friends, he'll be like, yeah, do that.
He gets flapped here.
You guys don't You guys don't play around?
Yeah, Woody and like the show killer hang out a lot, and Woody automatic.
Oh my god. I start skipping. I have like ribbons that I'm
And then
twirling.
he's like,
Woody's not gonna have fun like that.
Let's give Ray a jingle.
Woody's not gonna have fun yet, 'cause I'm having a miserable time hanging out socializing with my
It just takes a small adjustment on the rheostats.
Woody's not gonna play around like that. Yeah, he's fine. Yeah. That's right, yeah. I had with friends, one of the questions was, why do straight guys, I don't know if this is true, why do straight guys have so few pairs of pants? That's an observation he made. I don't think I've ever had that observation. No, it is. Disorder, that there was no mental illness, but again, we just don't know. But I can confirm, 34-year-old man, believed to be from Illinois, passing through the area. It is very weird. I have been working sources throughout the morning, and of course we will pass along what we know. Today, sirens were sounding in northern Israel, just north of the city of Haifa, Israel's third largest city, and it just is another indication that they can fire to the north and to the south, because you had a rocket that was fired toward the southern city of Eilat today that sits on the Red Sea. Fox Streams in southern Israel. President Biden is hosting Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese at the White House today. America's listening to Fox News. I'm Stuart Barney, and this is the Fox Business Report. Stocks open mixed. Boeing shares are up 1.5%. Boeing is... And that's what you need to know. I'm Stuart J. Waddles, WRJN News.
US Kids presents
WRJN, I gotta look where that is.
Learning the Lingo.
Well, that's about it. The radio tune's pretty good. It sounds terrible. It would sound better if we had better weather conditions outdoors. And also the second audio amplifier, that transformer really doesn't match. I would say that it probably adds maybe a little overdriving or distortion to it. It sounds a little bit better on the first audio, but the main thing is with that drop-in, that transformer wasn't a drop-in, but with that replacement transformer, the second audio now works. For the best, you could say, well, the radio all works. If I had the exact right transformer, it would work a lot better than it does. And if this were a midwinter evening, I might do another video later this year when we get into midwinter. On a cold winter night, you can tune a lot of stations. The problem is, of course, with these radios are not very selective, and radio stations are pretty high powered these days. It's very difficult to select a station out of the mess. But I might try that this winter. We'll see. For now, I'm going to call it quits on this one. If you watched, thanks for watching.